name's Eddie O'Donnell here at Tools for Working Wood, and today we're going to talk about finishing, specifically finishing with Osmo. Now I've got three products in front of me here: the top oil, the Polyx, and the wood wax finish. Osmo has an extensive line of products, all of which are incredibly low VOC, making them friendlier to you as you apply them. The ones that I've mentioned here are just some of the most popular. The Polyx specifically is a hard wax and oil product that's used for finishing furniture products, flooring, and is probably what most people would compare to a polyurethane or a varnish. The wood wax finish is a little softer, but it also comes in a multitude of colors. A lot of times what people will do is they'll put a coat of the wood wax finish down in a particular color and the coat of Polyx on top of it in order to harden and protect it. The top oil is their food grade finish. It's appropriate for butcher blocks, cutting boards, but it also is in general a wonderful finish for tabletops and furniture. It's essentially a thinner version of the Polyx, and it's been tested specifically for that food grade rating. So in any situation where you would use the Polyx, you might also consider the top oil as an appropriate choice. And we're going to talk about the Polyx today, specifically in gloss. The reason is I've got this beautiful guitar that I just finished sanded. It's cherry on top, poplar on the back, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to apply this finish onto that. What I'll be using to apply the Osmo is a white Bear-Tex pad. Later in the video you're going to see me using a gray one. Now these are very fine abrasives. Essentially, they're synthetic steel wools. They come in a small variety of grits, white being the finest, closest to a 4/0 steel wool, then gray, maroon, and dark tan being the coarsest. Now the first thing you're going to want to do after opening up your can of Polyx is you're going to want to mix it really, really well. So I've got my little stirring stick here, and I'm just going to stir this up. You don't want anything to be separated in here. You want it all to be really well mixed together. A can like this, that should be enough. Alright, now that I've got my can of Polyx all mixed up, I'm going to show you how I like to apply it. Now, they recommend using these white pads, which is a method that I really, really like. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it, and I'm going to dip it in there and get a little bit of finish on the pad there. And we want to remember to keep the application thin. The thinner the better. Now with this white pad, I'm just going to apply it in little circles. You can do figure eights, big circles for that matter. But the idea is that you're kind of trying to rub it into the surface. Really get it to penetrate. And like I said, we're trying to do as thin a coat as possible. Thin coats seem to be what always lead to success with finishes like this. Now just to let you know, this is not the only way to apply this finish. There are multiple ways. For larger surfaces, there's there are microfiber rollers, there's squeegeeing it on, flooding the surface and then using a squeegee to scrape some of it off, floor brushes. But for smaller projects like this is certainly my preferred method. And having the white pad, that non-abrasive pad as part of the application seems to yield a slightly better result. In my opinion, that is. All right. All right, so now that I've got the top all coated, and I mean, look at that, it's beautiful. Brings out all that chatoyancy in the wood. But now that I've got all that finished, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna leave it for 5 minutes, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna buff all this out. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes, and now what we're gonna do is we're gonna buff this finish in. So we're gonna take a fresh white pad, same type of white pad that we use to apply, but should be a clean one. And what we're just gonna do is we're gonna just start rubbing that finish in. So just kind of in the same way that we were applying it, we're just gonna rub this white pad on here, circular motions, trying to get every spot we can. And we wanna make sure that we're leaving no excess finish on the surface at all. All right, we're back. So it's been about 8 to 10 hours, and this guy is dried out full. So what we're gonna talk about now is putting on a second coat. And a big question that comes up with that is sanding. Now, Osmo says you don't need to sand between coats, which is absolutely true, but you can sand if you want to. And to be frank, that's my personal recommendation. I think you get a more uniform finish that way. But we're going to talk about the kind of sanding that they recommend. They use the term feather light sanding. And the point behind that is that you're not really trying to take off a lot of material. You're just trying to get any inconsistencies off the top of the finish. And going at it with any, gritty sandpaper like a 220 or something like that would probably be too much. So I would stick to things higher than the 320, the 400, up in that range, if not a little higher. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attack it with one of these gray pads. It's the same thing as the white pad, just a little bit more aggressive. And I like it just because, like I said, it takes off those little high spots. It just helps get everything back to uniform so that when I put my next coat on, everything stays nice and smooth. So I'm just going to attack it with one of these gray pads. It's really simple. You're not looking for much change in the surface. It's going to dull that glossed surface just a little bit, but really, it's just about trying to get some evenness. Remove any parts that got a little extra, anywhere there might be an inconsistency like a nib or something. You're just going to go over it lightly. We're going to try and make sure little bits don't get caught in it like that. And just a nice light once over. All right, and that looks good. So now I'm going to wipe it down. All right, so I've got my can of Osmo here. It's been well stirred, which is the same thing as we did last time. And now we're pretty much going to do the same process of reapplying with the white pad. Of everyone's question, when applying Osmo with the pads, particularly the white pads, can I buff it in with an Orbital Sander? And I'll show you how I do that. But I'm going to take one of these white pads, which is the same thing I buffed in and applied with before. And luckily these things are actually kind of sticky to the hook and loop pad on the back of a sander. They stick pretty nicely. And I'm just going to let it buff in. Now you're going to see this area where I've gone over is kind of dulled down a little bit, and that's kind of what we're looking for. It's not removing the gloss from the product, but it is helping that wax really sink in. And we don't have to do much here. We just got to keep going with this until the surface looks nice and consistent. All right, and that's all. All right, look at this, guys. That's our second coat done. And this came out really beautiful, didn't it? Nice and shiny, nice and glossy. Really brought out the character in the wood. I'm really happy with it, with the way this finish came out. All right. Now, Osmo is also a really low VOC product. So whilst I was working with it, I wasn't super worried about the smell, about breathing anything in that was going to hurt me. Luckily, there's only a small smell involved with applying the product, and it dissipates relatively quickly. So it's nice to know that you're working with something that's relatively healthy. In addition to that, there are a lot of different ways to apply this finish. The Polyx has a few different methods, but they also have a large line of products with a bunch of different application methods as well as a bunch of different uses. And in the future, I hope you guys look forward to me going through a couple of those different products, particularly the ones that we sell, and showing you how to apply them. All right, now one more thing before I let you guys go. It's really tempting after applying a finish like Osmo, an oily finish, with a rag, with a white pad, to just take that and chuck that in the trash. Don't do that. That's a really bad idea, and I'm going to tell you why. Finishes like Osmo that have an oil base to them generate heat as they dry. So if you take that flammable oil, scrunch it up, chuck it in the trash, part of it's going to start drying out, generating that heat. Heat plus fuel equals fire, kaboom. And we don't want that, well, generally at least. So my suggestion is lay the rags out to dry. I like to hang them up, wait till they're dry, crusty. You can feel that they're crusty, then you can chuck them out. Some people like to throw them in a bucket of water, that's perfectly fine too, particularly if your local dump or transfer station can take that and dispose of that safely for you. Or what a lot of people will do is they'll take that bucket of water, wait till they've produced all the rags that they're going to produce for a little while, dump that out, lay it all out on a non-flammable surface, preferably something like a garage floor or some concrete, plastic table or something like that. Make sure they all get dried out, and then they'll go and dispose of them in the trash. But really just don't throw away any of those wet rags into the trash. That doesn't just go for Osmo products, that goes for a bunch of different products. So please guys, be safe out there. Don't set your trash on fire, don't set your house on fire. I've heard too many horror stories, guys, too many. So do me a favor, be safe. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you next time.